Hello, and welcome to the weekly Oracle card reading with Kylie Savidge Psychic. You're here to receive a very special psychic prescription, much like a weather forecast, for how to best work with universal energies that will be present this week. And that's the week from the 8th of February to the 14th of February 2020. Okay, how did you go with last week? I did a bit of a recap and I thought it was super interesting because if you've watched last week's video, we had the Lady of the Lake with her Sword of Truth, and then opposite her we had the Disruption card. And I watched the Super Bowl video of Shakira and Jennifer Lopez's performance for the Super Bowl. And I thought that was a really interesting example of the things I was talking about, that globally some truths could come up, some things could be shared, some things that could be quite disruptive. And I thought that was a perfect example of that. On a smaller scale, something that happened to me which made sense for me when I reflect on the reading was going to the gym. There being workmen there, and they were doing some wiring or something, and I couldn't follow my whole gym program, so I had to change it. So I thought that was a really good example of when disruptions come up in your life, how to still go with the flow and do some workarounds. So if you have anything you'd like to share about last week's reading, or if you chose a card for you and that message was more relevant and pertinent for your week, I would love to hear about it. At the same time, if you're enjoying these videos and you think that somebody else that you know would like them too, please go ahead and share them. And I thank you for liking, commenting, subscribing, and hitting that little bell so you get notified when my videos come out. Okay, so looking at these cards, I thought I would just quickly share again. This is the deck that I'm reading from. It's The Wisdom of Avalon by Colette Baron Reid. And if you haven't been able to tell already from watching these videos, I'm a huge fan of Colette. I thank Goddess every day that I found this deck and found Colette, and she's a part of my life. Colette also has some new decks coming out, so watch for those. Super exciting. Anyway, this was the very first Oracle card deck that I bought, and I still use it today. It's one of the decks that I use the most with my client readings, and I just absolutely love it. It's very simple to read, very straightforward. The other deck which I really connect with is The Wisdom of the Oracle, also by Colette Baron Reid. So if you're out there in the market for Oracle cards, you're new to all of this, but you've heard the buzz and you would like some tips on how to find the best Oracle card deck for you, and also on how to read Oracle cards for yourself and then maybe other people, please get in touch with me. I do take on private students, so one-to-one tuition online, or if you're local, then sometimes I teach in person. And I've just finished running. Oh, what did I call it? Isn't that terrible? I just can't remember. But it was a Oracle card group. I ran it on Facebook, and I'll be doing that again probably towards the end of the year. In Kylie's Psychic Circle, I'll be teaching that soon. So if you're interested, please get in touch. But yes, this is the deck that I use. I've had it, it's published in 2007. I can't tell you how long I've had it for, not at the moment, but it's been a long time. Another thing I just need to say before we get into our reading is I would like to wish you all many happy full moon blessings. There is a full moon in Leo tomorrow for the Southerners, so all the best with that. Okay, we have 4 cards, so just take a moment and just intuitively pick a number between 1 and 4. Okay, when you have your number, that card, the card that is that number, that's the card that will have a message that's just a little bit more pertinent and a little bit more relevant to you this week. And please, if you're playing along with us, get back in touch with me and let me know how you're going with that process. Okay, so the anchor card. Here's truth. Sometimes these readings, they don't stick to the exact dates of the week, because that's not how these things work. Spirit sort of works in all time. I'm not going to get into that now. We'll go down a rabbit hole. Yet you may notice if you go back and look at some of the earlier readings, there will be themes that come up. So obviously we're in a theme about truth and honesty at the moment, because Lady of the Lake, the Yankee card from last week, she came out of the water with her sword of truth. So if you would like to know more about this theme, please go back and watch last week's reading. Now, this message is a little bit different from last week's in that Spirit want to talk about the burden of truth, and they want to offer us a lot of support, a lot of love, a lot of guidance and wisdom around this whole theme of truth. The thing is, we live in such divisive times. We can become so polarized, especially on the internet. And we can see how the journey of truth unfolds for people who live public lives, their lives are very much in the public, such as celebrity. And we can see how truth is completely subjective. It's a construct. And that can be triggering. We grew up, I don't know about you, but I grew up, learning all about the truth. And the truth was this and the truth was that. And I was taught other people's truths. And then, throughout my own education, especially at university, I was taught to deconstruct the truth. And I was taught something called critical literacy. And when I was at university, the suggestion was to teach critical literacy in early childhood, and I can see why that encouragement was there and why it was so important. And people may think, teach babies critical literacy. Well, it can be done, and there's a very sound reason and basis for it, and plenty of good research. We need to think critically about the truth. When there are loud voices out there in the media, we need to listen to that and look at that and say, okay, whilst this person's being heard, who is being silenced? That's one tiny example of critical literacy. Critical literacy deconstructs the power relationships around and in language. Big topic, I know. If you're super interested in this, please get in touch with me. I would love to provide you with some resources about it. I'm sure there are people who have made resources explaining critical literacy in really easy to understand language and really explaining its importance. And the thing is, whilst we are being light bearers and truth bringers and all the rest, Spirit are very aware of the possible consequences of this and that they're not always pleasant. Yet, that's not a reason to stay silent. Because time and time again, we can see it's in sharing our truth that we become liberated. It's in sharing our truth that we make connections with other people. It's in sharing our truth that we as a whole species evolve and grow. It's in sharing our truth that as an individual, we evolve and grow. We expand. The truth is a great liberator. Yet that doesn't mean it's not divisive and disruptive and can't cause conflict, and that the consequences of sharing your truth are not problematic. So Spirit wants to surround you with lots of love, and I keep seeing protection this week. So I want to say, trust your intuition around being honest with yourself. Be super kind, self-compassionate to yourself as you face your own truths and they change and evolve and grow. And be super kind to other people as they share their truths, and understand we are all the one being. We are all human. None of us are perfect. We are all grappling with massive issues such as truth. And the way that we understand truth is changing. This is a bumpy process. We're not going to get it perfectly right, and that's okay. Your Spirit wants you to know that as you stand in your truth, as you express your truth, as you reflect on the consequences of doing that, please don't be too afraid to do it, because they are holding our hands through this whole process. They are wrapping us up in beautiful white protective light. They are carrying us. And there is more and more pressure on certain people to be silent. And that pressure is probably going to increase. That is still not a reason to be silent. It's very scary. You look back in history, the truth tellers, that's what happened to them. They were silenced in many, many ways. And, we can still see that in modern days. People who tell truths which are disruptive and conflictive, and I don't even know if that's a word, but they're disturbing truths. They upset the power balances and the power structures in some way. Those people can suffer dire consequences. I'm not telling you to run out and tell your truth. And if your truth is something that could put you in personal, physical danger, yet I'm saying that there is this increasing pressure in the world that, certain truths are at war with each other. And it's not unfathomable that there will be dire consequences for truth telling. Kind of sad and scary. Yet it's the truth. And it's my truth as I'm understanding it. The other thing is too, this is something I had an experience with lately, is, and I have had this theme come up my whole life, when you share your truth, that is your truth. That is your personal perspective on a situation or experience. That doesn't make it the truth. We need to allow other people to have their own experiences of the truth. Two people can experience a very similar situation and come out of it with two very different versions of the truth. And that's okay. The thing is, we need to have a lot of compassion for others and a lot of compassion for ourselves as, we toddle through these quite rocky times. And as we peel the layers off things and grow and develop further, and truth will be one of these things that we are going through a process with now and probably will be forever. Yet I'll talk more about burdens with the next card. I just feel like we need to have courage to recognize our truth, to see it. Sometimes it's really not easy to face the truth about ourselves. It's not easy to learn and grow, to have our ego, dismantled a little bit more, squished in some way, reshaped. That is never an easy process. I know for me, I've really struggled with that. Yet, now I totally forgot what I was saying. Anyway, let's just be kind to ourselves. It's not easy as we go through this unfolding, yet it's very necessary. It's about evolving and expanding and growing and changing. So just be kind to others, be kind to yourself. Take really good care of yourself this week and just reflect on it. How is truth coming up as a theme for you? Okay, burden. Burden is we need to be super, super honest. Sorry, second card if you pick number 2. Super, super honest about, is there anything that we're carrying that's extraneous, which is not ours? We need to put it down, let it go, because we could be possibly enabling others. Or we could be practicing some dysfunctional behavior ourselves. So yeah, the burden of truth may be on us, but also we need to be honest about our burdens. So it's time to check in with ourselves deeply this week, have a look around and say, am I practicing any behaviors which are enabling? Am I carrying things or worrying about things or taking on things which are not my business, not my job? And by doing that, is it, causing problems for me or the other person? What is it that we're really focused on this week and that we can make some progress on, and with? And if there's anything that is coming up, it's really, really time to let it go. Around the full moon, great time for releasing. You might want to write down some of this stuff, visualize it, get it out. Don't burn it. I've been tearing mine up and putting it in a pot plant and wetting it, because if you have fire restrictions and bushfires, no burning, please. Yeah, Let's examine our lives, reflect on them. Is there anything that keeps coming up? And it's not my circus, not my monkeys, not my burden. I need to release it. It's safe. It's safe to let this go. The whole world won't end because you stop doing something which is not really your job to be doing. And it's safe and okay to be disliked, like if that's the truth. If we've been taking on things which are not ours, we've been people pleasing or being manipulative, not in a nasty sense, but it is manipulation of people, places, and things sometimes. If we're taking on responsibilities that aren't ours, that is manipulative in a way, and it is self-seeking behavior, and it's like self-gratifying kind of in a way. Just bear with me. My words are somewhere out in the ether today. Um, so it's not easy to face that truth about ourselves, yet it's necessary. Let's examine it. Be gentle and kind to yourself as you do. Don't beat yourself up. We're all human. Like I've said, we're all works in progress. Just this is a good time to have a look at it and say, can I release these things? And the whole thing too about truth is about this freedom that kept coming up for me. Freedom. We could be freeing ourselves. Sometimes you don't know what it's like to be carrying something. You don't understand the weight of that, carrying that burden until you let it down. I sort of think about like if you went to a swimming pool, you had lots of heavy clothes on. You went in a swimming pool and you started, taking all the clothes off till you were down to a swimsuit and you're swimming around feeling so free. Sometimes our burdens are like these heavy layers on us, and it's okay to let them go. And sometimes we just fear and worry and are so anxious about the possible consequences. We're catastrophizing about all the things that could happen if we stop doing what we're doing. Yet, if we don't stop doing what we're doing, we could really be hampering our progress and getting in the way of just our peace of mind and our happiness. Things to think about this week. I know I can relate to this so much. I really am taking on this message for myself. Okay, third card. If you pick number 3, it's the Wind Fairy. Now, this is about thoughts, words, and intellectual analysis. In light of truth and burden, what I want to caution you about is analysis paralysis. Have you been overthinking? Have you been getting caught up in your monkey mind, worrying, catastrophizing, all the rest of it? And have you not been using the right use of imagination and thought? Are your thoughts mostly positive, or are you stuck in that cycle of negative thinking? So this is a time to analyze, to reflect on those things I'm talking about with truth, to maybe express ourselves through journaling, through the written word before we go and share our truth in some other way or put it on social media. So maybe it's a very introspective process this week. Perhaps our truth is something that could be so disruptive and so disagreeable, and the consequences could be so negative, or we're so worried about it, that the safest container for us to express our truth is with a counsellor, and keeping it keeping it within the walls of a confidential relationship. Perhaps you could talk to your doctor or your priest, or as you said, or your counsellor, or you could journal and then destroy your journals, or something that I see is you can write things out and then you can write over it. It's called writing in the writing. And so then you scribble over your words so no one else can see what you mean. I mean, sometimes you just need to go out the backyard and scream a bit, don't you? I just let off a bit of expletive just before, because this is like the 8th time I've tried to do this video, and it feels good to release it. So if you feel weighed down and burdened and like a container's about to burst like a volcano, this is a good week to express your truth, express yourself, release your burdens in really healthy ways. Remember, if we don't deal with what's happening inside of us, it can come out of us in a way that we don't want it to. So, words. This week will be a bit of a theme, expressing ourselves and being analytical and intellectual about things rather than being practical and just jumping in and taking action and risk taking and all that. It's a week to be a little bit more introspective. It's really good to think about this in light of the other things I've said, and I'm taking that on board. Okay, our last card, the fourth card, if you pick that, it's restriction. So perhaps in a way, we might be bursting with truths to express, or, we want to have that conversation with the person who we've been enabling, or we feel, we're carrying burdens for, and we want to have the confrontation or the discussion, and yet we feel like it's not the right time. So I feel like that journaling could be a really good process to, releasing and let go of these things and sort them out without taking them to the person, without having the conversation yet, because we just may not be in the right headspace. So we may feel restricted, yet if we look for an appropriate outlet, we're not going to feel as restricted. I trust that you know what I mean by this. Okay, the other thing is just what Spirit were talking about before. There is this pressure on people, on the world's people. There is this like an energy towards silencing people, which is restrictive. Being silenced is a restriction, and we might see that come up more and more, like conflict around freedom of speech, the right to express yourself. We've seen that in Australia with journalists got arrested for sharing stories. Don't remember all the details, but that might be more of a thing. There might be more of a suppression of the truth. You might see that again. And just think of it, okay, that might be the world stage, but does that message apply to me personally? Perhaps it doesn't. Totally okay. Yet if it does, are you restricting yourself? Are you holding in truths, which, I just said better out than in, but just think about how we get them out. Do you feel restricted in some way? Do you have, a boss that's not allowing you the freedom to do your job, or to speak up on a matter? Just sort of think about all these themes and say, yes, it might be happening out on a larger scale out in the world, yet it could also be happening on a smaller scale for you in your own personal life. There's the macro and the micro. That's what I'm asking you to think about. So restriction isn't pleasant, not if it's forced upon us. So are we trapping ourselves in any way? Can we release ourselves from something, from an obligation or responsibility? Have we been overburdening ourselves, putting too much on our plate? Look around your life and see, where are the opportunities that I can release myself from something? And you know what I really feel like? I feel like this could be so liberating, that freedom message is coming up again, because we have the potential here to really examine any and all the ways we feel restricted and to liberate ourselves wherever possible. We could be in a relationship that's just, seen it's run its course, yet we're just hanging on for whatever reason, and we just haven't dissolved the cords and ties, and we're not ready to leave it. And it could feel restrictive. We could have massive responsibilities, caring for children, caring for a parent, caring for someone who's elderly or unwell. We could feel restricted. It's okay to feel your human feelings. Yet instead of building up resentments, and feeling really angry about things, look at the ways that we can release some steam, or release some other burdens so that we can fulfill our responsibilities. We can do the things that we need to do. Yes, so much to think about this week. Yet what I'm seeing is the potential for perhaps next week we'll be like, whew, the lid came off the kettle, we blew off all the steam, we're liberated, yay, we're expressing our truth, or our throat chakras are clear, It could be really, really amazing. Remember, I'm always looking for the positive. That's what you're going to hear here. We may talk about difficult subjects and problematic things, yet I will always look for the positive. That's the other thing with the wind fairy is just that to reflect on our thinking and how positive we're thinking, or are we trapped in negative thinking. So that's a real theme this week. We've got to look for the positive. We've got to be an optimist. Okay, our last card, which, as you said, you can pick a card, sorry, which I said earlier. You can pick a card between 1 and 4, because I always pull 4 cards from any one deck. So it's better for you to pick your number there, because the 5th or the 6th card, if I pull it, are from different decks. So here we have Dewal Cool, and yes, how to say his name is in the guidebook, and he is from the Keepers of the Light Oracle by Kyle Gray. He just looks happy, this dude, doesn't he? Just very chill. And his name's Cool. It says, remember that you are on a path, take one step at a time for happiness. Now, Dewal, he assists and supports us with our unfolding Dharma. And Dharma is, I wrote it down, it's the right way of living. So I think he was called the Tibetan monk. Apparently he's reincarnated as quite a few things. And we had the path. Truth has a bridge, but restriction had a path. So what we need to know too is that Dewal is a guide who you can call upon to assist and support you with whatever came up for you in this reading. Also to give further clarification and insights. So we are on a path. We can look at it, we're on a path towards our truth, liberating our truth, being free of the burden of truth. We're on a path intellectually with our thoughts, and we're also on a path to freeing ourselves. So Dewal can help us with any of that. Just know Spirit is sending us so much love and support, and I kept seeing this whole field of like protection. We can ask Spirit to protect us, to pick us up and carry us through all these difficult, challenging times that we experience. They really want you to know you are not on your own with any of this. You're not meant to be on your own. You're not meant to do it all by yourself, and to call on them for assistance and support. So I really feel like there are big themes happening, there are big things unfolding on the world stage, and there are big things unfolding for us in our daily personal lives. And we just need to trust the process. We're on the path. It's all unfolding. Our Dharma is happening. We do have input. We can co-create and manifest with the divine. And yet we also need to accept life on life's terms, and we just need to take good care of ourselves as we're out there, because the path can be rocky and twisty and turny. God. And that's okay. So yeah, just know you've got so much love and support for us. I really do wish you a fabulous week. I'd love to hear from you about how you're going with these readings. I'd love to hear your feedback and comments. And I'm wishing you so many blessings on your week. I will see you next week.